Welcome to Inspiring Teachers, a show bringing you classroom tips, motivation, and stories from successful educators. Join Tavis Beam and Danny Hogger as they explore the why of teaching.
Welcome to another exciting edition of Inspiring Teachers. I got to come up with some new adjectives because I'm using exciting just about every show, but maybe it's too late to go back.
Riveting.
That's great. I'm Danny Hogger, and I'm here with
Tavis Beam.
And we're connecting using the magic of the internet all the way to Indiana to talk to Amanda Alford on this evening. Amanda is the host of the podcast, Facing Your Fears, science teacher, Google EDU trainer, spotlight teacher, presenter, blogger, and just all-around good person. You know, we haven't said that enough. Amanda's great. So we're grateful she'd give us time. Thank you for joining us today.
Oh, thank you for having me. I truly appreciate being invited onto your show. I really am excited to talk and have people listen and get the word out.
Very cool. Well, we've been connecting on Twitter. I see we follow a lot of the same inspiring teachers from around the country. Mm-hmm. And I got interested in your positivity and your messages about confronting things that are challenging. Before we get into Facing Your Fears and what that's about and everything that you're doing, coaching, track, and teaching, what's your journey into education? How did that start for you?
I have always kind of wanted and felt drawn to teaching or coaching or being a role model and just kind of leading by example. I went to University of Southern Indiana, and my goal was to be an elementary teacher. And more specifically, I was going to be a second grade elementary teacher. Like, I knew it going in. I was going to be a second grade elementary teacher. And the whole time through college, if you asked me what I was going to be, I was going to be a second grade teacher. And I did student teaching in first and fourth grade, and that did not deter me because I'm like, that's fine. My first job and real job is going to be a second grade elementary teacher. and I graduated in December just by chance. And so, you know, there's not a lot of positions open in December and January. So I had to do what everybody does and sub. And I got to come home and sub at my home schools and, you know, get to connect with people that I hadn't seen for several years because I've been away to college. And I did not sub in a single second grade class, but that did not deter me. I am going to be a second grade teacher. And the only opening they had was for special education for the behavioral class. And they said, do you want it? And I said, yes. Even though I didn't take special ed. So I had to take night classes. I had to take online classes. I had to get an emergency license. But in the back of my mind, I was still going to eventually be a second grade teacher. 2 years later, 2 days before school starts, the middle school teacher or the middle school principal comes to me and says, we have an opening for 7th grade science. I really liked what I saw when you subbed. Do you want it? Yeah. I will take it. I need to take online classes. I have to go back to school. I have to get an emergency license. 10 years later, I have yet to teach second grade.
There's still time.
So, you know what, though? I really don't think I will ever teach second grade, nor do I want to teach
second grade. The phone's about to ring.
Yeah, I was like, there's going to be a phone call. I was like, Amanda, we have a second grade opening. And at that point, I may be like, you know what? No.
Yeah.
I've been consumed so much with middle school. I mean, I've spent, 10 years with 12 and 13-year-olds. Like, that is my entire career is middle school. And I love when people look at me when they ask me what I do. And I say, oh, I have 106 13-year-olds I hang out with every day. And they're like, bless you.
Right.
Bless you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, they're like, that's such a hard grade. And I'm like, I really don't want to go up or down. I'd rather just stay in middle school. So I don't know if it's just, I've lost all sense of like, what I'm doing. And I'm just like, yeah, 7th grade sounds great. I'm just going to stay in middle school. That's where I belong.
So for you, what is it about middle school that you find so enticing? Because I've also been teaching middle school for many years, and I did go down to elementary, which was my original idea too. And I'm back in middle school again. So what is it that's so compelling for you?
One, what I love is you definitely see a personality change halfway through the year. Like when I first get them, they still have that like childlike, elementary like giddiness to them. And so they're like, yeah, that's so cool. And they still like get all my jokes and they still giggle and they still like just have that kid in them.
Mm-hmm.
And then Christmas comes and there's like a switch that comes when January hits. And, they're adolescents, they're going through, hormones and everything like that. And they want to start being more independent. And I like that because it's watching them try to unfold and figure out their independence and getting to walk them in that journey and know that they don't have to be guided step by step anymore. Like I can start kind of, letting them try out their wings and trying to fly a little bit. And if, they fail or if they mess up, show them what they need to do, set new goals, praise them for what they did. But in elementary school, when I go to visit my daughter's classes, because she's a first grader, and seeing how much the teachers still have to guide those little guys, I was like, I love that I don't have to do that. Like I can sit back and let my kids, my students explore on their own and be more independent.
Yeah.
And I don't teach high school because it's really hard to teach kids who are taller than you. So when you're always looking up, and it's like, no, you can't do that as I look up at them. And high schoolers, that's a different breed too. High schoolers are a whole different beast.
And it's funny, even within the microcosm of just middle school, it's like you get them when they're in sixth grade. At least that's for us in California. We get them in middle school at sixth grade, and they're still like, oh my goodness, they're such babies. You have to teach them everything. And then you go to an eighth grade class, and it's like, oh my God, they're so independent. They're doing everything on their own. But seventh grade really is that sweet spot of right in between where you can really kind of provide just enough structure for them where they can have a certain degree of freedom to express themselves within that structure and really grow into a person. And I feel like we're on the same wavelength with that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And if you talk to my colleagues, they're like, we're all just kind of all in the same boat. Like we've all been teaching middle school, and it's like, if we have the opportunity to leave, we're like, no, like this is where we're supposed to be. Like, this is our niche. Mm-hmm. And, they say it takes certain people to be middle school teachers, just like it takes certain people to be kindergarten teachers. Okay. Like if somebody tells me they're a kindergarten teacher, that's me saying, bless you. Bless you for the patience that you have.
Yeah, we understand that.
Absolutely.
And both of our wives teach kindergarten. So we get to say that quite a lot. In fact, they require it from us. It's this weird prerequisite every day.
It is.
Amanda, you're the first teacher we've had on who is also a track coach. What are some skills that you generate in track and fitness and running and track and field that translate, you think, to life success or that are just good for the developing person?
How I teach in my class is also how I coach. And one thing that I'm really big on in class and coaching is that I don't yell. Now in track, you have to yell like across the pitch to be able for them to hear me. But I never point out their failures. I never point out what they did wrong. Like if they ran the 100 meters in 20 seconds, which is horrible. Like you're going to get last place every single time. Even in middle school, you're going to get last. But then they improve and it's 19 seconds. Even though they're still going to get last, we focus on the 1 second. You improved by 1 second. You did it. You have successfully, done whatever you need to work harder and reach a better goal. And so just things like that, really I teach community. So my class, being a science class, we're all in stations and we call them communities. So everybody has their own little community, their little stations with their partners. And that's kind of how track is. You're a community. You understand what each other's going through. I'm not out there running. Only you can encourage each other and really positive peer pressure, really having that growth mindset of if you're all pulling together for the same goals, it's more likely to happen than, I. So really going back to the whole, there's no I in team, it's the whole group. And that kind of transfers over in class. Cause I'm like, guys, you are a community. Because when you get older, you're going to be part of a larger community and you need to know how to associate and work and behave and, kind of collaborate in that community. So it kind of just transfers through everything. Who I am on the track field is who I am in the classroom, who I am when I'm talking to the kids when they see me, because I also don't want them to see me as a fake. Like I want them to know that it's genuine. So how they see me at Walmart is how they see me on the field, is how they see me in class, because if not, seventh graders can smell fakeness. Like they know whether you're genuine or not. And if you're not genuine, you're not going to be able to build that relationship with them.
This is interesting, Amanda, because we just finished an interview with Robert Ward, and he said the exact same thing. And it's
almost
true.
verbatim. Yeah.
Almost verbatim and almost paced exactly the same. And that's a teacher in Southern Los Angeles, and we know that to be true in Northern California, and you see that to be true in Indiana.
Yeah. So I don't know who Robert Ward is, but bless you.
We highly recommend checking out his books.
Yes, yeah.
He's written
I will.
on this topic.
The Benefit Mindset.
Yeah.
This is his most recent book,
Right.
and that was in our previous episode. So
Yes.
go check him out as well. Amanda, so tell us about
I'm
this.
writing that down.
Fantastic. Tell us about Facing Your Fears. What's the show about, and what's the impetus for creating it?
So Facing Your Fears is, obviously facing fears, but it's broken into the different types of fears that there are. And I think that there's really kind of 5 fears that everybody goes through, especially in education. The fear of failure. Everybody fails, but nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to acknowledge their failures. They just kind of want to sweep them under the rug. And kind of, we have a joke, you can't fake it till you make it. And so if you fail, you have to own up to it and use it as a learning opportunity and a growth opportunity. The next one is fear of the unknown, not having the answers. And so I think we all fear that too. There's nothing more intimidating than standing up in front of a class and a student asking you a question in the middle of one of your lectures, and you're like, I don't know this answer. Like, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's kind of that fear, because you're like, I'm a professional. I went to college. I've got the degree. This is my specialty, but you don't know. I mean, and the teacher students, when they say, I don't know, you need to be a role model and say, well, I don't either. So let's find it out.
Exactly.
The next one is fear of what others say, like social media. And so, I was just talking with the coach who I did the interview with my podcast. I said, 23 students out of 24 can love your class. But if that one student does not, self-doubt creeps in.
So true.
And you start wondering, why don't they like my class? What have I done? And so that self-doubt really just takes over. And it's the same on Facebook. You can have hundreds of glorious comments, but that one parent makes a snarky remark, and you're just like, I shouldn't be a teacher anymore. I'm done. Like my entire career. Yeah. Because you don't want that fear. Like nobody wants to not be liked. And so self-doubt creeps in. The other one is fear of technology, which we are a complete one-to-one device school and have been for 4 years. And when you have teachers who have been teaching, even myself, when I first started teaching 10, 12 years ago, I didn't have the technology I have now. I didn't have the capabilities and the benefits and the possibilities that I have now. And people are afraid of technology. That change and it's really intimidating. And then the last one is the fear of getting out of your comfort zone. And again, I'm guilty of this. I used to be the teacher who had my entire lesson plans written out for the whole year in August. And I didn't want to get out of that comfort zone. I got in this little niche, and I didn't want to leave because I was comfortable. It didn't mean that I was efficient. It didn't mean that I was effective. Mm-hmm. I was comfortable, and I didn't think, what if my students come October suddenly hit a rough patch and all my lesson plans just go down the drain?
Right.
Like I need to be adaptable. I need to be flexible because I need to meet their needs. They don't need to meet mine. Mm-hmm. And so it's talking to, the podcast is talking to teachers, administrators, parents, counselors, coaches, technology strategists, and just what are fears that they have faced, because we all have fears. And instead of silently struggling in our own little classrooms, not letting anybody know that we have fears and not letting anyone know that we are struggling, we become little islands.
Mm-hmm.
And then we become bitter, and then we become resentful, and that feeds out, and our students can feel that, and our students read that.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what it is overall just kind of talking about what fears are we seeing in education? What are some fears that you've gone through? How are some struggles that and just kind of admitting what fears we've gone through.
Yeah.
And then how we build our confidence. Like, how are we turning those fears around to thrive in our classrooms? And what advice can you give to others who are feeling that way?
I can imagine some really powerful conversations coming from these lines of questions. And I think that this is something that is going to really resonate with everybody.
Yeah, there's a lot of intrigue here. I think there's a lot. So what I thought we could do, if you're good with it, is each of us think of maybe a rational fear that we are trying to deal with. We can help each other, but also just for fun, something irrational that in the back of our minds we're afraid of that maybe is more on the fun nature. And I wonder if you might want to go first for us, Davis.
Well, the rational one's pretty easy for me because I'm a woodshop teacher. And so I constantly have a rational fear of somebody getting injured.
Right.
And the way that I really deal with that is, well, I express to the kids the importance of safety. And the kids really understand and appreciate that safety is important. They have a vested interest in not getting hurt as well. So I think that, because this is my first year teaching woodshop, I've been a science teacher and an elementary school teacher, but I've taken this on. So I've stepped outside of my comfort zone and something that's totally different from anything else that I've ever taught before. And really a lot of my fears have gone away just by meeting the kids and being in that environment with them and realizing that they don't want to hurt themselves and they understand, okay, I can't act like a fool in here. And they see the value in when we walk into this room, we behave differently.
Right.
So really understanding that they are, I don't want to say smarter, but they are more cognizant than I was giving them credit before the year began. I think my irrational fear, though, is the loss of total control of the class. Like, I have nightmares that no one is listening to me. And I've been teaching for 10 years now, and my first year was absolutely crazy, and my second year was crazy, but at no point did I lose complete control of everybody. But there's this, like, thing inside of me that, like, one day they're all going to revolt and it's going to be total Lord of the Flies and I'm going to be running down the street with the entire classroom. But yeah, irrational.
And the news crew is following. Helicopters from above.
Or white Bronco.
Yeah.
What about you? Yeah.
Well, you did good because you coached yourself through those situations there. But you have created a system that creates safety and creates a successful learning environment. I would say the thing you said that definitely resonates with me, having 200 students and having one that you think might be discontented, and that's the one that takes up 70% of your thought time. And why is that? Why can we not silence the one part of our brain with that student's potential discomfort that may or may not even be there, right? And so I try to have one-on-one conversations and say, is there anything you would change? Is there anything you'd like to do that we're not doing? And invite that that working together and that building process. So that's something I think can help. It still doesn't help me not think about it, though. So I don't know if there's anything, Amanda, that you think can help you think through that or anything that you've worked on.
When I have students, kind of like what you were just saying, because I actually had one this year. Actually, I've had a couple. What I do is usually there's an underlying root or cause for that. And so, for example, I had a student who right at Christmas break, she demanded her parents call and have me fired because of her final. She didn't get 100. And she totally melted down and was calling her parents demanding that I be fired and that the final be thrown out. And we went on Christmas break and the students were coming up to me going, she doesn't not like you. She hates you. And I'm thinking, this is the same student who last week brought me a cupcake. And now she just completely despises my entire being. Again, they're 12. So, I mean, you got to go with how 7th graders think. And I thought about it all Christmas break. And it was almost like that aha moment when I realized what her reasoning was. And so the first day back, I waited till my prep period, and I talked to the teacher who had her that class period, and I called her in, and I offered her a piece of candy because food is always the best way to start troublesome conversations. If you
Stomach
don't
and
know
the
it
heart
in
are very
a way.
closely tied.
Yes, always start off with chocolate. That is a great way. And I just started asking her about her Christmas break and her interests and stuff like that. And I just kind of spun it around to how, because she's in 4-H, I was in 4-H, and I spun it around how I remember what it was like being in 4-H and the pressure. And I said, the worst judge is always the one standing outside the arena watching you. And she was like, it is. And I'm like, I know exactly how you feel because my father was the exact same way with me when I was 12 years old and I was in that show arena. And she just broke down crying.
Mm.
And I said, I realize the pressure that is being put on you. I realize, because your dad wants you to do so well in everything you do, in school, in sports, in 4-H. And I said, I know exactly what that's like because I had the exact same expectations for me. And I was like, that's why. And I said, I forgive you. And she goes, what? And I said, I forgive you for calling and trying to get me fired the day before Christmas break because I've been waiting for you to hit your breaking point. And our relationship is she's always coming up to me and she's always talking to me, and she just randomly comes up to me in the hallway and tells me about, how she's doing. And it's a completely different child because I figured out what the underlying root was. And so my advice would be to really build those relationships and find out why, because I think 99% of the time, whatever's happening that they bring into the classroom didn't start in the classroom.
Right.
It didn't start with you. They are just bringing it in like luggage because they're emotional and they're kids and they may not have the best role models of how to express their feelings. And so to have that safe zone, and I told her, I said, anytime you feel like this, you can come talk to me. You can cry, you can yell, you can, whatever to get it out because they need that. Sometimes they feel like they've just got to keep everything inside.
Yeah. Well, we're so glad that you didn't keep everything inside and you shared that wonderful story with us. And Facing Your Fears, how can people find it? How can people find you?
So Facing Your Fears is, I'm slowly working on podcasting and figuring everything out. This was a huge encouragement with Adam Welcome, the author from California who does Kids Deserve It and Run Like a Pirate.
Right.
I talked to him about, how to, get book writing started and things like that and blogging. And he's like, you need to do a podcast. And this was 2 weeks ago.
Nice.
Like, yeah, let's do a podcast.
And off you're going.
And off I'm going. So Facing Your Fears can be found on my Twitter. I always post my links on my Twitter at Alford_science. It can also be found on, I'm working on iTunes. I'm working my way through iTunes, and I think I finally successfully figured that out. YouTube, I have it on there. Stitcher, am I pronouncing that right? Stitcher is a podcast. Anchor.fm. And so I'm slowly working on all of those. So the goal is to also get Spotify and Google Play. But again, I am podcasting 101 myself. So I'm kind of learning the ropes.
Cool. Well, we're so supportive of what you're doing, and we'd be happy to be a guest anytime. We just wish you the best in everything you're doing. Thank you so much for making time for us this evening.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. For Tavis Beam, I'm Danny Hogger, and we will see you on the next edition of Inspiring Teachers. Thanks, everyone, and like and subscribe. For now, class is dismissed.